Hello, this is Ellen Madono, speaking to you from Tokyo Homeopathy. Today I'm not going to speak about homeopathy, but I'm going to talk about the Book of Change. And this is just an introduction, and I'm very much a novice at this, but I'm such a novice, yet it's been quite helpful to me, and I'd like to explain how to use it just from the beginning, not all the different forms, different complicated ways you could use it. Actually taught me from a book. My sister had met him, and his name is Steven Karcher. And then my sister taught me how to do it, and it was the sort of thing that I thought, oh, I'm not going to do something like that. That's just chance. Why would I even be interested? I wasn't very positive. But it turns out that Steven Karcher shares a lot in common with things that interest me. He found the Book of Change and found it to be very interesting and useful. And then he somehow ended up in Switzerland and was asked to translate the book. And he spent, 7, 8, 9 years translating this book at the Jungian Institute. Carl Jung actually is very helpful to homeopaths. And he has many ideas that to some homeopaths are very useful. And one of these ideas concerns synchronicity. That is, the use of chance. This isn't like betting or anything like that, but this is more like the use of that which you didn't really think or try to guide what's going to happen. Instead, you opened yourself up to being very open to what happens from chance. And it's called divination. It's the sort of thing I never thought I'd be interested in, but actually, when Steven Karcher did his interpretation, he concentrated on the very early literature from China. And I don't know how he learned this. This language is very difficult to learn. At the Tang Dynasty, the Chinese began to form what they thought of as the Middle Kingdom. That is, they are the center of the world. The emperor is the center of the world, and everything else evolves from that. But their history goes much further back than this. This is AD, after Christ died. BC is much earlier. And at this period, the Qin dynasty, this is when the I Ching was developed. So what Steven Karcher did was he began to translate all the literature around the I Ching. He didn't just stick to the fairly dry Confucian commentary on the I Ching. But this early literature was written on bamboo sticks. There was a grand historian of China in the Han Dynasty who wrote the first history of China. And it's incredibly detailed and very true, very accurate. But all of that was written on bamboo sticks like this. And much later, the Chinese were still using bamboo to record their literature. Of course, this took up a lot of space as compared to paper. It meant that people wrote in a very terse way. They wrote very succinctly. And you see here that there's no punctuation. So where a sentence ends and where it begins is not clear. And this is hundreds and hundreds of years of time. So, of course, dialects are different, and they're almost like different languages. But Steven Karcher, this is his own illustration, used the images from that period and embellished upon them so we can understand a little bit or relate to these various images of divination in these early dynasties, early times, okay? And furthermore, this is something that Jung was very interested in, so he's not just pulling this out of nowhere. But Jung said that these early mythologies actually reflect our unconscious minds, and these early heroes and heroines and monsters and ghosts and all these images are actually something that goes way back in our cultural history. And furthermore, he keeps referring to kind of the female image. This is the male image. And it's very strongly the female image that he's looking at, because this is the unconscious mind. This is the background to what kind of interpretation that Steven Karcher gave us. He's just using very ordinary I Ching techniques. So this is all just basic I Ching, not his elaboration. There's a basic idea of the yin principle and the yang principle. The yin principle is it's the earth, it's water, it could be cold, it could be dark, it's easily changing, it nurtures life. And the yin principle is the heavens, the sky, the clouds, the moving forces, the sun, as opposed to the moon. Always there's this dot here, which means that there's a little bit of yang in the middle of all this yin, and there's a little bit of yin in the middle of all this yang. Okay, and in the I Ching, or this divination, yin is represented by a broken line. So if you have 3 broken lines, this is a trigram because it's made of 3 different lines. If you have 3 yin lines, that's the most yin that's possible. If you have 3 yang lines, that's the most yang that's possible. So it's these combination of trigrams that are used to form the omens. You have the top part and the bottom part of the trigram. The trigrams are broken down into 8 trigrams, and each of them have a meaning that's fairly easy to understand: the heaven and the wind and the water and the mountains and the earth and the thunder and the movement or fire, and a lake, which means it's just draining, or a swamp kind of area, and the heavens. Okay, so the heavens are totally yang, and the earth is totally yin. Okay, the earth. So you have this contrast between the yin and the yang, and then you have all the possible permutations of total yin and the permutations of total yang, where you have some yin and some yang, some yin and some yang. So the symbol here with a little bit of yin and more yang, this center line could be bigger or small. I mean, the center circle could be bigger or smaller, depending on what combination you have here. And the way this is laid out is, instead of putting it in this circle here, it's laid out as the 8 trigrams are on this side, and the same 8 trigrams are on this side. So when you form a hexagram, which are the combination of the bottom trigrams and the top trigrams, you get this many possible combinations. Each of those combinations has a number. So right here, they've used a number to indicate what the meaning of the combination. So each omen in the Book of Change, so if you look in here, this is going to be divided into 65 different omens, okay, because there are that many omens. And these are all representing the number of those omens. But if you put it on a graph like this, then this would be the number 1 is the most young possible, which is 1. So it's a combination of the lower trigram and the upper trigram. This one here is the combination. It's total young on the bottom, and at the top, it's thunder. It's a different trigram. Okay, so and each of these different numbers have a different omen associated with them. The way this was the way people in way back when this all started drew the omen was they drew straws like this. These straws all have a certain color or something at the bottom, but they're not able to look at it, right? And so they just drew these straws and then write it down on paper. Modern people use heads and tails, but the mathematical meaning of these different this way of doing it versus this way of doing it brings out different results. The mathematical chance that's involved here. So this ancient way of doing it using straws is a little more interesting, according to Steven Karcher. What he suggests is you actually use marbles that you can buy on Amazon. And it's not the color that matters. You just have to establish a meaning to each color. So you could change. White doesn't have to be stable yin. You could use, if you bought this bag, you could use blue, for example. They're not using blue at all here. So it's white, green, red, and yellow. But your white could be blue. You could have different combinations. So out of this bag, you could make several sets. So each of these here has the meaning of these straws in them. Okay, I'm not sure how this system works. I think this is a little bit different. But so each of these is associated with these lines here. So if you draw, see, I have a bag right here of my own marbles. And these are the marbles that my sister gave me when she learned how to do this. Oops, it's very easy to drop marbles. I think straws are easier in that sense. But you can see that there are 7 white marbles here. And I'm going to just drop them. So I'm not going to show you in marbles. Okay. But there's 7 white marbles. There are 5 green ones, 3 red ones, and 1 yellow one. So the number of marbles of each color is different as we set up this bag here. Okay. And when you draw out one, okay, I'm going to draw out one. And this one is white. So this is going to be, how am I going to write it on the piece of paper? I'm going to use one of these lines, a double broken line here. Okay, that's going to be stable yin. And I withdraw another one, and that's going to be a stable yang, right? Now, I don't know if I'm going to, probably can't. Okay, let's say I withdrew the red one, and that would be a line with a circle through it, okay? And I have a very low chance of drawing out a yellow one, the one that there's only one of them. So I looked in my bag. And if I drew this one, then I would write this with an X through it. So this transforming one is actually, it's less likely to occur. I don't know why, but I've been doing a lot of these, and I get a lot of transformation here. All of mine indicate a lot of transformation. But today's, the example I'm going to give you, that I drew, there's no transformation here. There are no transforming lines here. I only drew out white stable yin and green stable yang. I didn't draw out any of these. So you see here, I have a notebook where I keep all of my omens and my questions. And, you know, it's really not to show other people, and then I just write them down here, and write down the number. So the first omen is primary. And then if you have transformations, then you have one that relates to this. It comes from this one here. And step 1 and step 2. Okay, we're not going to go through this transformation one because I didn't draw that. And then there's a hidden one and there's a yang and a yin. I could have done this, but I just didn't do it because I was happy enough with what I found out. So we leave out all the transformations, and what I got was primary and a hidden hexagram. Okay, so and then I wrote them down in my notebook. What I like to do is I write them down, and each one of these has a name, and I just have a quick symbol. I use Chinese characters. Thunder is too complicated in Chinese characters, so I draw a picture of a thunderbolt. But you know, you can do whatever you want to write these out. I want to be handy. And then the primary one is P, and the hidden one is an H. So I just use the first letter. Primary hexagram is the most important one. Okay, this is the central theme, and each of these has a line, and each line has a number. Okay, you're going to look here at the numbers. Now these numbers are kind of important once you get to transformations. At the beginning, it's not all that important. Okay, but you just write them down 1, 2, 3 as you draw them out. Then what happens? Okay, I didn't need any of these transformations, and so this is what I finally got. And how did I get this hidden one? Well, you see the box in green here? You take the bottom 2, 3, line 2, 3, and 4, the hexagram from there, and you put that at the bottom. And then you take 3, 4, 5 and put that at the top. Then you have the bottom hexagram and the top hexagram. Okay, so for me that became to be like this. So I put this one and this one together. And then I wrote it down in my book like this. And then I have to look at the reading of each of these. And I just write down kind of a summary of only the things that pertain to me. There's some things that, whatever's written there, either I didn't understand it or it isn't relevant to my question. I ignore what is not relevant. Of course, not everything in this world is relevant to me. I'm teaching homeopathy on the web. And so I asked, how should Ellen reach out to teach others homeopathy? Steven has taught many, many, many people how to use the I Ching. I've never had that opportunity, but he has excellent instructions in the front of his book, and so I follow those. This is a question. He has articles on how to format your question. Your question should be fairly specific and something that you might have an answer to, that's possible that there's an answer to it. You read that article and you'll see how to format the question. Or you can just try a question. Even if your question, I found out in the beginning that even if my question was not so great, actually when I read the omen, then I could see, I should have formatted my question like this. So the question, what I read kind of told me in the beginning what my question should have been. Nowadays, I seem to be asking questions that speak directly to the I Ching, so I think I'm kind of getting the hang of how to make a question. This is the answer that I got to my question, and I got Omen 62. If you look at my book here, I got Primary Omen 62, right? So I went to a chart like this, And here's Omen 62. So it's a combination of this one on the bottom and this one on the top. That's my Omen, okay? So next time I'm going to read this. I just remember that I'm not putting everything down here. It's much longer than that, but anything that seemed relevant I'm using. So a transition to a new time, already crossing. So this 62 is fairly far back in the I Ching, okay? And this brilliant person here made this graph to show you how the I Ching from the early chapters to the end, from birth until spiritual death, or maybe you go back to childhood here. You bring this childhood back here and you put it back here if you're older than that. So it could be your personal life, but it also could be the life of your project. So I'm in the spiritual level of this project's development. I've been studying homeopathy for a long time, so I'm at this level right now, okay, at the spiritual level. I'm at 62. 64 is the highest one here. So, that's what I drew as my primary omen. And I drew something without any transformations. This is where I'm working. Aha, I didn't know that. How would I have known that? I never would have even considered such a thing. Where is my project? Wouldn't have even asked that question. Where is my project? This bird, I'm a bird flying low. Rely on small people, not the nobles. Who are small people? They're ordinary students. So rely on my ordinary students. Ride in a wooden empty boat. So I don't have to carry a lot of things with me. I'm on a river and I'm already crossing, right? I'm already crossing. So I'm on a river and I'm already crossing. Put ideals to trial. So try out new things. You can try. You don't have to. And especially things you've been thinking about. Yeah, try them out. You might learn something. Connect to students, I think, with sincerity and honesty. Flying through liminal space where rules are broken. Okay, liminal means that this is a spiritual space, right? I'm in the spiritual area here. Flying through a space where rules are broken. The hardly visible thing is where change occurs. This is all about change that's occurring. So I'm participating in the process of change by doing this project. And I should be careful and meticulous. Keep your sense of purpose. So don't get lost in teaching something that I'm not teaching. Being small is pleasing to the spirits. Do not be afraid to act when alone. Okay, about relationships. I actually got this part from a different book. Steven Karcher has only 100 copies of this guide to change, and maybe he'll print this in larger amounts. But I got this from this book. This book is much simpler, and it's organized with simpler language. I kind of like the elaborate language of the first book that I bought. This one that I'm telling you about. This one here. I kind of like that elaborate language because it's a little bit closer to his original texts, and there's a lot of it that I don't understand and that I couldn't use. So he kind of eliminated that stuff. Maybe that's a good idea. I don't know. But anyway, this is what that comes from. Relationships. Practice your relationship. Stay simple but detailed for organization. Work with others, bringing out meaning with each detail. Personal development. Consider the meaning of each thing you confront. The future. Confusion of unrelated difficulties. Oh, that's a little bit, if I have a bunch of unrelated difficulties and I'm confused, I'm ready. Okay, that's okay. Okay. Do not go up, go down. So stay low to the ground. When active, be polite. When mourning, be compassionate. When paying, be frugal. Now we come to the hidden omen. Remember I said there's There's this primary omen. We're not having any transformation, but there's a hidden omen, and I just showed you how to do the hidden omen. And this hidden omen is usually pretty interesting. I rarely miss doing the hidden omen. And it says that I'm a well that's in the middle of the village. This is the Chinese character for a well. It kind of looks like a well, do you think? And the water must flow for the entire village. So I'm putting this up on my website. Anybody can access it. I don't know if that's a village, but anybody who's interested is probably part of my village. A secret connection in the time of oppression. Certainly in terms of homeopathy, we're being oppressed. And interpenetration and free communication. Do not try to follow the spirit now. Don't get too, I'm flying low, right? I may be in a spiritual time, a spiritual part of the whole process of this development. But don't just get involved in following the spirit. This will lead to confusion. So I need to stay pretty close to the ground and try to give you all who are interested in homeopathy the details. In the autumn, harvest the crop dealing with each thing that you encounter. Expect real harmony to develop. And it's autumn now, so this is how I'm thinking. So I hope you enjoyed this, and this is Ellen Madono from Tokyo Homeopathy, and I've just introduced to you the I Ching, the Book of Change, and this is just an introduction. Okay, thank you.